Since leading Origin 63 through a pivotal shift in 2020 to focus exclusively on HubSpot services, Sam has turned her company into a powerhouse in CRM innovation and customer experience. Her forward-thinking strategies have not only positioned Origin 63 as a top Service Hub partner, but have also set new standards in executing large-scale deployments for enterprises around the world. From her transformative insights shared at Inbound 2024 to her unwavering commitment to using exceptional service as a driver for brand loyalty, Sam continues to redefine what's possible in the world of customer success. We're honored to have you, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited today.
To kick things off, talk to us about Origin 63. Tell us about your firm. What's your vision, mission statement? Would love to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Origin 63 believes in growth through happy customers. So we're working with a lot of our organizations to align their marketing, sales, and customer experience teams, which usually is success and support combined, to be able to provide exceptional customer experience so that they can retain and grow with the existing customers that they have. And we do that through the HubSpot technology. So we work with a lot of teams to implement HubSpot, learn how to use it, fully adopt it, and really make sure their software is working for them versus them having to work for the software.
Sure. HubSpot as a company is so versatile. Tell us what attracted you and your team to adopting their platform, their services, and so forth.
Yeah, that's a long-standing story. So I'll give you the short version.
Please.
We've actually been partners for a decade now. And what originally attracted me to HubSpot was this story about being able to show and prove marketing ROI. And so back then, 10 years ago, that's what HubSpot was really well known for, was marketing automation. Since then, they have grown leaps and bounds, and it's really a CRM tool that has suites of tools connected to it for marketing, sales, and service so that you have everything under one roof. What that allows us to do is really unify all that data and make sure we're telling that full customer journey story. And that just helps not only with acquisition, but also with that retention portion as well.
So Origin 63 has been recognized as a top Service Hub partner. Tell us about what that entails. And obviously that's a wonderful honor to be awarded, but would love to unpack that for folks here that might not understand what that means.
Absolutely. For a little bit of context, HubSpot is made up of what they call hubs. So they've got Marketing Hub, Sales Hub, Service Hub, Operations Hub, and Content Hub. And each one of those hubs has different set of tools for teams that are using that for the functional purpose of marketing, sales, et cetera, right? Service Hub is the umbrella of tools within HubSpot that services the customer success side. So being able to have health scores, manage your portfolio, really be proactive in that retention piece. And then also the customer support side, which is obviously the more reactive piece of customer experience when you have inquiries that come in from your customers, being able to make sure that you have contextual information about who they are to provide them the answers they're looking for, but in context of where they are in their journey with you,
right,
and what products and such they're using.
And I imagine you've implemented or helped clients of yours implement HubSpot across multiple different sectors. Tell us,
Yes.
What do you think is a common theme that you see when they drink the Kool-Aid and they sign up for HubSpot? What's a common theme that you see that is an aha moment or a realization for them?
I think it's this idea of having all our teams under the one roof. A lot of times, especially with Service Hub being focused on customer support, customer success, those teams end up being very siloed. You're in tools like Zendesk, Freshdesk, or you're using like Gainsight for customer success. And what I found is, especially with those customer platforms like Gainsight, they're trying to be like a secondary source of truth. So it makes it really challenging because sales is working, let's say, in Salesforce, and maybe marketing is tacked onto that with Marketo. And then you've got your service team over here floating around. You don't know what's happening with your customers. So what I hear a lot when they finally come into the HubSpot ecosystem is, first of all, wow, how easy is this tool to use, especially if you are coming over from some of those legacy platforms. But second, wow, I can see all of that. Like I can see what's going on with the sales, and sales is like, oh, I can see if they've had tickets recently and what kind of tickets they've had. So it makes it so much easier for individual contributors across the organization to be able to act with that empathy towards the client or towards prospects, because they actually understand the full journey and all the touch points that individuals had with your brand. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. You spoke at Inbound 2024, and your presentation was titled How Customer Support Can Unlock Your Next Marketing Campaign. Could you provide the listeners a quick synopsis of what your key message was in that talk?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really interesting topic too, because so many people think about marketing and customer support as two completely separate spectrums of the entire customer journey, right? For those of for your listeners that might be really familiar with HubSpot, there's the flywheel. And this flywheel is this idea that marketing and service and sales all circle around together with the customer in the middle. And what people forget is that marketing on the flywheel actually feeds back into service, and other way around too. So this idea that there are opportunities for customer support to provide data back to marketers in order for marketers to have a better understanding of what their customers are doing with their products or their services, how they are achieving their goals, what kind of challenges they're having with their products and services, or just challenges overall in the ecosystem.
Actionable data.
Exactly. Actionable data that allows us as marketers to tell a story with, and I know I talk a lot about empathy, but that's like a big part of the customer journey, is like telling the story with empathy. Understanding what language they're using so that you're talking to your customer the way that they would expect to understand and be told about your product. And in that way, what we're able to do is create this beautiful feedback loop where their reports and success are providing data and context to marketing, and marketing is using that to craft their campaign and then feeding that back through the organization. So marketing should also be talking to support, should also be talking to success and sales and saying, here's what we're saying as an organization, so that we're all speaking in the same voice across the entire customer platform.
That's very comprehensive, and thank you for that. Talk about change management in the CRM. So there's multiple CRMs out there. I know that there's a big emphasis on change management with you guys as an organization during migration of data. Talk about that a little bit. What's your approach, and how do you mitigate large data sets, maybe complex or very dirty data sets? Let's go ahead and bring out the dirty laundry, right?
And that's the big topic right now, is this data unification. And you can't really do that unless you understand how all the data plays together and how it comes into play with your reports and insights and outcomes too, right? So change management's like a big topic, right? We think about it in a couple different ways. First of all, it's the actual software itself. So understanding what products are we using right now, what softwares are we using, what jobs are they completing, and how do we unify that into HubSpot to potentially completely get rid of those extra products and try to make it easier for us to do our jobs with fewer tools, to streamline it. And of course, the data piece is a huge part of that. We work with a lot of teams that are coming from 3-4 tools, and all 3-4 tools have different CRM components, different data that it's storing. So we go through a huge process of understanding what do we actually need, first of all, because I have been in those scenarios where IT teams have just pumped hundreds of data points into the system and everyone's just overwhelmed and not knowing what to actually touch and use. But then also, how do we combine all of that? And which one of those sources would be potentially like the source of truth if there's conflicting information? So it is a complex process, that data cleanliness, data validation piece. It really helps because we have done this for so many organizations. We have the protocols and we have the best practices in place to know how to make those decisions. It'd be really overwhelming, I think, if you've never done it before.
There's a lot of trepidation as well, and fear around getting it right the first time, getting that data migrated,
Yes.
as you mentioned. Talk a little bit to the marketers, perhaps leaning in with small to mid-tier teams who have not yet pushed the go on transitioning to HubSpot or another
Yeah.
large-scale CRM. Do you offer guidance to those marketers about requirements gathering and how you collect data is just as important to how you assimilate it, right? How you apply a synthesis to the data.
Oh, yes.
How do those steps align themselves for success? How would you guide that marketer?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think it's having those conversations internally to start. When we start to engage with customers, sometimes they've had those conversations, sometimes they haven't. So what we usually say, especially if marketing is the one that's embarking on this journey and being the champion of this change, is to go back to your team and find out where data lives and what teams are you utilizing it for. Because oftentimes, even as a small business, like you do have different functions within the organization that is storing information here or in spreadsheets, even all of that is still very valid. And you just want to get a sense of where is it living and what job or purpose is it serving? Is it feeding your sales pipeline and forecasting? Is that where you're getting your marketing list? Is your service team actually keeping track of tickets in the spreadsheet, which we've seen before? We need to know, just
Nobody
to know
uses
and have the
spreadsheets
picture
anymore, right? Nobody uses.
Oh, of course not. No, definitely not. And honestly, if you're listening to this and you're like, I use spreadsheets for all of that, is very common. And I have worked with organizations who are $100 million organizations that are still using spreadsheets for things like sales tracking. So it's not uncommon. But the second part of change management is also the people aspect and being able to understand why are we even thinking about change. So that's one of the other aspects of the internal conversation is uncovering the pain. I spoke to somebody the other day who basically explained that part of the process is like having a pity party, essentially like inviting everybody to the table and being like, why is it hard to do your jobs today? And just airing it out and understanding, okay, these are the challenges. These are the major gaps.
There's something to be said for honesty like that, right? It's formative.
For sure. You need transparency during these processes. You want to understand what people are struggling with because that's what's going to provide the true value. Software is not a process. And I'll say it again because sometimes this gets confusing, right? Like software cannot replace process. We have to have processes, which is something our team helps our companies that we work with figure out in order for the software to actually accomplish the goals that you have. And I think for the last few years, we, especially during the pandemic, we threw software at all of our challenges and then took a step back and went, wait, why didn't that work?
Right.
And that's where the people also come into play, is making sure that we're creating a process that serves the people and the software will serve the process.
Wow, that's really good, Sam. Thank you for that wisdom. I think it might be prudent to also mention all of the different software applications, but also new technologies that are being thrown at this industry.
Sure.
When you look at AI and the use of AI components, both large language models, small language models being incorporated into workflows, marketing CRM workflows, I think it's astounding. I think it's amazing what we're doing in recent conversations. I think it's important that we have that subject matter expert or group of experts really at the helm. It's kind of a two statement as a team, it's slogan. And then as we work with our clients and we implement AI and maybe it's custom GPTs that we've written for them, so forth, there really has to be that group of experts overseeing that AI and the software, as you mentioned. So can you speak to that a little bit when it comes to HubSpot? There's been a lot of innovation. There's a lot of talk inbound 2024 about AI. Maybe hit some of the highlights there and maybe what in the market.
Absolutely. Honestly, that's a conversation I'm having every time that I start talking to somebody about HubSpot. Yes, I was just in an event last week and I was sitting down talking to several people about AI and perspective on how it's going to support functions within the organization, like customer success, for example. Someone was actually given a mandate of, hey, you have a budget next year, decide if you're going to use this for AI or if you're going to hire a person. which was the first time I think I've ever heard something like that before.
Choose between a machine and a person.
Choose. Yeah. And I think that's where we are right now in this kind of journey of AI. We are not necessarily replacing entire teams. In fact, those teams that interact with our customers, I actually don't feel that we'll ever be in a position where customers are going to want to get that kind of sensitive one-touch support from somebody that is not a person.
I agree.
Maybe someday AI will be so good we won't even be able to tell. But at this point, you talk to anyone, they know when they're talking to a bot on the phone, for example.
And empathy, which you've mentioned before, is so important.
So important. And I won't go into that whole theory about machine learning and everything, but I don't think AI is going to be able to do that, at least in the next 5 years, let's say. So the conversation that we're having around AI is really about co-creation right now, especially for marketers. So HubSpot, for example, has a really cool tool where basically you can give it a landing page that exists already or a blog article, let's say. And then based off that blog article, the AI can dissect the content and then create multiple assets with a one click. So you can create social media posts, ads, another landing page, etc. But you as the individual, as you as the human, will be able to go in and make adjustments, to make edits so that it really does sound like your brand of voice and that things make sense and that they're accurate. So that's like the co-creation portion. And then we also have our agents. So AI agents are out there for the other parts of the team. So your sales agents, you have your service agent. And what those are doing is just making our jobs right now more efficient and easier because we're not spending time, for example, having to research our prospects and go track down all the information. HubSpot's sales agent can bring that information to you by just asking it a query. Like, what's been going on with this customer, or like, how much funding do they have? Like things of that nature. And then the service teams are getting AI tools to do things like respond to their chats, or not directly, but to be able to actually both, to be honest, directly and giving them suggestions for responses. So there's an AI chatbot in HubSpot that can pull from knowledge base articles and provide self-service answers. But then there's also behind the scenes, the agents can get answers from the bot as well, like the AI to say, we suggest that you should send this. And the accuracy rate is fairly good for industry standards, but even for industry standards across the board today, like I think AI's standard is about 60%. So you're not getting a 100% resolution rate right now.
That's it. It's absolutely right. That definitely resounds with our entire team. A couple of reasons why. You mentioned it's a cooperative effort between AI and humans at the helm. And that's the whole premise behind the Coactive Marketing Podcast is it's not human in the loop or on the loop. It's really coactive design. You've got that relationship. And so I think we'll see a lot more, to your point. As things advance, as technology advance, we joke, people say, when are the Terminators coming, right? When does singularity event occur? I think and maybe others in the AI world would disagree, but I think we're a few years at least away from something like that. I think it's maybe in the realm of possibility, but at this point, to your point, 60% is something we're seeing across the industry.
Good, but it's not enough to replace a human. Just yet, right?
Just yet.
Yeah.
Some may argue with us, but I always say, let's prove it. And the empathy piece.
Exactly.
I know that you speak a lot about empathy, and I think it's very powerful. Storytelling in digital marketing, but then even in just communication in general, being able to sell your service or your product with confidence, understanding what the impacts are, and more importantly for customers, what the ROI is, defining that well, explaining that well. Talk to us about just the paradigm of empathy, what we need to be aware of as marketers, what we have not been aware of, and what we might be missing. Sam, can you talk about that?
Yeah, where empathy started to really come onto the scene was when we as marketers started to understand that we can use data points to start to drive some personalization. And so when I talk about empathy in marketing, I'm not talking about you as an individual need to understand who this one person in your entire database is, what their kids' names are, what kind of car do they drive. You don't need to know that. What you're really looking to understand as a marketer is where these customers lie across your customer journey. So what kind of touch points have they had with you? what kind of indications are they showing in the background that maybe you don't necessarily know right off the bat, but that the data can provide for you, like latent intention, and can also help you to understand, did this person talk to us before? Have they never talked to us? What are they interested in? What kind of communication have they had with our team? And really, when we talk about empathy in marketing, it's about that. Being able to service those organizations, to serve up those customers with the right message at the right time, with a combination of personalization and automation, serviced by the data. So the opposite of that is what so many of us have done in the past when we didn't have that, which is just to blanket blast your entire database with the same exact message. Yeah, exactly. Or to not understand in one way, shape, or form, like what this particular audience segment's pains are versus another segment. And so when you can't speak to that and be able to provide the value with your product in your messaging, you're really just talking to a wall. And that level of communication with mass marketing is where we start to get into the challenges where people then say, oh, this is just spam at that point. It's really when you're being able to do it contextually, that's when you're able to provide that empathy. And then you're likely to have less of that feeling of, I'm being just spam marketed.
That's right. There's a true connection, I think, occurring. People are really listening, leaning in, and I think that's powerful. So thank you for articulating that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some advice that you might have for aspiring marketers, entrepreneurs, folks in this industry who are learning in this ever-changing world of AI. What would your advice be to them as they want to grow their business and want to achieve more success?
One of the things that I think has always served us is looking 3 steps ahead, 3 years ahead even. Trying to understand, getting really obsessed with understanding the trend in our customers' ecosystems. So whether that's vertical specific or the type of job that you're providing to your customers, but listening to other influencers in the space, really becoming a student of your customers' pain, their challenges, their goals, and looking at the thought leaders that are shaping that ecosystem. It's really important. I spend lots of time just reading on LinkedIn, for example, reading articles and in the industry publications. And the major thing is what you do with that information. And I think this is the part where some small businesses, even me when I was starting out, like I missed. And what I found was it's great to understand and to be able to communicate it, but I can't say the same thing everybody else is saying, because then I'm just awash in the sea of the message that everybody else is projecting out.
It's powerful, Sam. Absolutely.
You got to get your own POV on it. You have to, whatever that is, whether that's your product or it is a different way that you approach your service. Like for instance, HubSpot services are all pretty much the same if you peel back all the layers, but the way we differentiate it is our expertise, our way we handle change management, adoption, the way. Exactly. So we've actually laid a POV over a service that technically could have become commoditized, but because of the way that we're providing that level of service and the way that we've approached it to really make sure people are getting that software ROI, it's provided a different voice in the ecosystem. But I've had to evolve it every 6 to 12 months. I can't just keep that one point of view. It should forever be changing.
Always change.
Don't stand still. Yeah. The minute you stop changing, you stop growing.
I agree with that too, for sure. Those are powerful words. Sam, thank you very much for allowing us to interview you and for sharing your knowledge with the community. I think it's wonderful. You may get several questions, and we'll make sure to put all of the appropriate links to Origin 63 in the footnotes. So thank you again for your time.
Absolutely. More than happy to interact with anyone who has questions. You can always find me on LinkedIn as Sam Anderson. And I look forward to anything that people might want to talk about. It's such a fun topic, so thank you for having me.
What an incredible conversation with Sam Anderson on the Coactive Marketing Podcast. My favorite takeaway: software is not a process. It's a tool that supports the process and the people behind it. Sam's philosophy is a powerful reminder that success doesn't come from technology alone. It starts with understanding challenges, building thoughtful solutions, and fostering a deep human connection to the customer journey. It's this blend of empathy, strategy, and innovation that truly drives impactful growth. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your network, and make sure to tune in next week for another conversation packed with ideas to elevate your marketing strategies. Thanks again for listening to the Coactive Marketing Podcast.